I was standing on my front porch when the black SUV pulled up, and the woman in the navy blazer handed me a $15,000 fine for building on my own land. Marissa Crowe called herself president of Riverside Estates, HOA, flanked by two guys built like bouncers, telling me I had 10 days to demolish part of my house or face a lawsuit. I held the paper, frozen for 3 seconds, my architect brain catching something wrong. The letterhead showed a P.O. box, but the filing date on the violation notice was backdated to before my construction permit was even issued. Impossible unless she'd been watching my land for months. One of her guys stepped onto my porch without asking. Close enough I could smell his cologne, his eyes scanning my windows like he was cataloging what to tear down first. Marissa's voice sharpened. Every property in this area falls under covenant compliance. You're not special. Mr. Reyes. I kept my face blank and pulled out my phone, framing all 3 of them in the shot. I'll need to verify this with the county recorder. If it's legitimate, I'll cooperate fully. Her jaw tightened. She dropped a business card on the railing. You have 72 hours. After that, we proceed without you. They left. I stood alone, the card still warm from her hand, and pulled up Travis County's property records on my phone. My deed loaded in seconds. Clear title since 1987. No covenants, no liens, no HOA ever recorded. I searched for her number. Nothing. No business entity. No registration. The silence where a paper trail should exist told me everything. This wasn't bureaucracy. This was extortion. And she'd just given me 72 hours before she came back with something worse. Comment below where you're watching from. I want to hear if anyone else has fought something like this. The house behind me was supposed to be my legacy. 18 months of design work, permits, inspections. Every detail placed exactly where I'd imagined since walking this land with my grandfather. He'd bought these 2 acres in 1987 when this part of Texas was still wide open. When he passed, his will had one instruction: build something worth remembering. So I did. Modern lines, floor-to-ceiling glass facing the hill country, sustainable materials, and solar panels. It wasn't just a house. It was proof I could take everything I learned working alongside real estate attorneys for 5 years and turn it into something tangible, something mine. I'd been holding my coffee when Marissa pulled up, watching the light play across the windows, thinking about the final inspection scheduled for next week. Then the SUV door opened, and she stepped out like she owned the place, heels clicking on the gravel driveway I'd laid myself. The 2 men with her didn't introduce themselves. They didn't need to. Their presence was the introduction, solid and silent, the kind of hired intimidation you see in movies but never expect on your own property. Marissa extended the envelope without a handshake, without a smile, just a cold transaction. Mr. Reyes, you violate Riverside Estates covenants. This notice outlines the fines and corrective actions required. I opened it, standing right there on the porch. $15,000. The number sat at the top of the page in bold print. Impossible to miss. Designed to shock. Below it, a list of violations. Unauthorized expansion beyond approved square footage. Failure to submit architectural plans to the HOA board. Non-compliant exterior materials. Every line item was specific enough to sound legitimate, but vague enough that I couldn't immediately disprove it without pulling my own records. And then I saw the date. The violation filing was marked 3 months prior. Dated before I'd even poured the foundation for the addition, they were claiming violated codes. If this HOA existed, if they'd been monitoring my property, why wait until now? Why let me finish construction before showing up with fines? Marissa must have seen the confusion on my face because she pressed harder. These covenants have been in force since 1992. Ignorance of recorded restrictions doesn't exempt you from compliance. I hadn't signed anything acknowledging restrictions. When I'd gone through closing with the title company, they'd been explicit. The land was grandfathered in, sitting outside the boundaries of any planned community, I'd specifically chosen this plot for that freedom. But Marissa wasn't interested in my memory. She pointed at the paper. You have 10 days to arrange payment and submit a demolition plan for the non-compliant sections. After that, we'll file a lien and pursue foreclosure if necessary. The word foreclosure landed like a physical blow. I felt my grandfather's voice in the back of my mind. Steady and sure. Know what you own. Know who's got a claim to it. I looked up at Marissa, at the too perfect blazer, the rehearsed authority, the men standing just close enough to my porch steps to make a point. I'll need to see the original covenant documents filed with Travis County. She blinked, just once. That's not your concern right now. Your concern is resolving this violation before we escalate further. She handed me a business card. Heavy stock, embossed lettering. Riverside Estates Homeowners Association. Marissa Crowe, President. A phone number, an email but no physical address. Just a post office box in Austin. No website, no office hours. Nothing suggested an actual functioning organization. Marissa took my silence as submission. She smiled, thin and sharp. Smart choice, Mr. Reyes. We'll expect contact within 72 hours. The SUV kicked up dust as it rolled back down my driveway and disappeared. I stood there, the notice still in my hand, the Texas sun climbing toward noon. My coffee had gone cold. Something had shifted. The house no longer felt like mine alone. Someone had walked onto my land, pointed at what I'd built, and claimed authority they shouldn't have. That violation, that intrusion, settled in my chest like a stone. I pulled out my phone and opened the security app. The camera above my front door had captured everything. Clean footage with timestamps, faces visible, license plate partially in frame. I saved the clip to 3 separate locations. Outside, on the porch. I'd already done a quick search. No HOA registration, no business entity. The property record showed a clear title, but that was just surface confirmation. Now I needed the full picture. I went inside and opened my laptop at the kitchen island. The marble countertop was cool under my palms. I navigated back to Travis County's property records portal, this time pulling the complete deed history. There it was. Clean chain of title going back to 1987 when my grandfather bought the land from a retiring rancher. No covenants recorded in 92 or any other year. I searched for any filings under Riverside Estates. The database returned nothing. Not a single covenant. Not a single document tying this property to any association. I sat back, the pieces clicking into place. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was fraud. Deliberate. Organized. And targeted. I had 72 hours before she came back, expecting money. I thought about calling the police. Thought about calling Jake Mitchell, the real estate attorney I used to work for. But if Marissa was running this con, she'd done it before. There were others. People who'd paid because they were scared. Because the threat of losing their home was enough to make them comply without question. I needed more than a hunch. I needed proof that would hold up. Proof that would stop her from doing this to anyone else. I opened a new browser tab and started searching for Marissa Crowe. Looking for patterns, looking for the cracks in whatever story she was selling. That's when I found the first thread that would unravel everything. The search results for Marissa Crowe came back sparse. A few social media profiles with privacy settings locked down, no professional LinkedIn, no business registrations tied to her name in Texas. I widened the search, adding Riverside Estates, adding HOA, and adding Austin. Nothing connected. Then I tried a different angle. I pulled up the Secretary of State Business Registry and searched for any entity with Riverside in the name. 8 results. None in Travis County. None matched the name on her card. I sat back. The glow of the laptop screen reflected in the kitchen window behind me. If she were running a legitimate HOA, there'd be paperwork. Non-profits had to register. They had to file annual reports. They had to exist on paper before they could exist in practice. I called the Travis County Recorder's office. The line rang 4 times before a woman answered. her voice efficient and clipped. "Recorder's office. This is Angela." I explained my situation, keeping it simple. Someone claiming to represent an HOA had served me a violation notice, but I couldn't find any covenant recorded for my property. Could she verify? There was a pause, the sound of typing. "What's your address?" I gave it to her. More typing. Then she said, "I'm not seeing any covenants, liens or restrictions filed for that parcel. Your deed shows a clear title going back to 1987. If someone's claiming otherwise, they're either mistaken or lying." The words settled in my chest, cold and clarifying. "Can you send me written confirmation of that?" I asked. She agreed. I'd have it by email within the hour. Next, I called Jake Mitchell. He answered on the second ring, his voice warm with recognition. "Alden, it's been a minute. What's going on?" I walked him through the encounter with Marissa, the violations, the threats, and the missing paperwork. He listened without interrupting, the way he always did when a case had teeth. When I finished, there was a beat of silence. Then he said, "This is extortion. Textbook. If she's using fake HOA authority to demand money, that's fraud. If she follows through and tries to file a lien, that's forgery. Both are felonies in Texas." His tone shifted, sharper now. "Don't respond to her. Don't pay anything. Let her keep talking. The more she does, the worse it gets for her. Document everything. If she contacts you again, record it. Texas is one-party consent state." I thanked him and hung up, my mind already moving 3 steps ahead. I opened a new document on my laptop and started building a timeline. Day 1. Marissa shows up with 2 enforcers. Day 1. I verify no HOA exists. Day 1. County confirms clear title. I added screenshots of the property records. Saved the email confirmation from Angela at the recorder's office. Uploaded the security footage to a cloud drive and shared it with Jake. Then I created a folder on my desktop labeled Evidence and started filling it. Every email, every document, every search result that came back empty. If this went to court, I wanted a paper trail that couldn't be questioned. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. The text came through in all caps. "Mr. Reyes, this is the legal office representing Riverside Estates, HOA. Failure to comply within 7 days will result in lien filing and possible foreclosure. Respond immediately to arrange payment." I read it twice, feeling the manufactured urgency, the intimidation baked into every word. No law firm identifies itself as the legal office without a name. No legitimate attorney sends demand letters via text message. I screenshot the message, added it to the evidence folder, and didn't reply. Jake was right. Let her keep going. Every move she made was another nail. That evening I did something I rarely did. I joined a neighborhood message board for West Austin, one of those community forums where people complain about trash pickup and lost dogs. I searched for Marissa's name. Nothing. I searched Riverside Estates. Nothing. Then I tried a broader search. Just the word HOA combined with scam. 2 results. One from 8 months ago. A homeowner in Pflugerville is asking if anyone else had been contacted by a woman claiming to represent the Cedar Hills Association, demanding fees for violations that didn't exist. The post had 3 replies, all dismissive, telling the person to just pay and move on. No follow-up. The account had gone silent. I stared at the screen, my pulse ticking up. Cedar Hills. Different name. Same playbook. I clicked on the username and sent a private message. I think the same person contacted me. Different HOA name but identical tactics. If you're willing to talk, I'm gathering evidence to stop this. I hit send and closed the laptop. The house was quiet around me. Outside, the sun was setting over the hill country. Someone was trying to take what my grandfather had left me, using nothing but fear and fake paperwork. I stood at the window, my reflection in the glass. 72 hours. Marissa expected contact, but I wasn't going to give her what she wanted. Silence. And then, when she pushed harder, I'd have everything I needed to push back. Jake's office was downtown. I arrived at 9 a.m. with a folder full of printed documents, the kind of preparation Jake had taught me years ago when I was still working paralegal hours. He met me in the lobby, handshake firm, expression focused. We took the stairs to the 3rd floor and settled into a conference room. I spread the documents across the table, the violation notice, the business card, screenshots, the email from Angela, the threatening text. Jake picked up each piece, eyes scanning the way he used to review contracts for loopholes. "This is textbook fraud," he said, setting down the violation notice. "She's impersonating a legal entity that doesn't exist, demanding money under pretenses, threatening property seizure she has no authority to execute. If she actually files a lien, that's forgery of a legal instrument, felony. If she uses that lien to threaten foreclosure, that's theft by deception, another felony." He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. "But here's the thing. Right now, all you have is attempted extortion. The moment she escalates, the moment she puts something in writing that mimics a legal filing or tries to record a fake lien with the county, you've got her. So my advice, let her think you're scared. Let her think you're considering paying. The more she commits to this con, the stronger your case gets." I nodded, but something in my gut resisted the idea of playing victim. What if she just disappears, takes the hint, "I'm not paying," and moves on to someone else? Jake smiled, the kind of smile that said he'd seen this play out before. "She won't. People like Marissa don't walk away from $15,000 without trying harder. She's invested time. She's made threats. She's counting on you folding. When you don't, she'll escalate. That's when you involve law enforcement. That's when this stops being a civil dispute and becomes a criminal case." He slid a business card across the table. "This is a detective I know in the Travis County DA's Financial Crimes Unit. When she makes her next move, call him, but not before. You need her to commit." I left Jake's office with a plan, but no peace. The idea of waiting, of letting Marissa think she had control, felt like swallowing glass. I drove home with the windows down, the Texas heat already building even though it wasn't yet noon. When I pulled into my driveway, I saw it immediately. A bright orange sticker was plastered on my front door, official looking. Bold text. "Notice of pending enforcement action. Riverside Estates, HOA. Compliance required by November 21st, or property lien will be filed." I peeled it off carefully, preserving the adhesive, and carried it inside. The sticker was printed on cheap stock, the kind you could buy at any office supply store. No official seal, no case number, just intimidation dressed up as authority. I photographed it from every angle, then added it to the evidence folder. That afternoon, I set up the rest of my defense. I installed 2 additional security cameras, one covering the driveway, one covering the back of the property where the so-called unauthorized expansion sat. I linked them all to cloud storage with automatic uploads. If Marissa or her enforcers came back, I'd have footage before they reached the door. Then I drafted an email, careful and deliberate. "Ms. Crowe, I received your notice. Before proceeding with payment, I need to review the original covenant documents recorded with Travis County, along with proof of the HOA's nonprofit registration with the Texas Secretary of State. Please provide these within 24 hours so I can verify the legitimacy of your claims. I'm happy to comply once I have the proper documentation." I read it 3 times, stripped out any hint of challenge, and kept the tone neutral and cooperative. Then I hit send. Her reply came within an hour. "Mr. Reyes, your requests are noted. However, the burden of compliance is on the property owner, not the HOA. Our legal team will be in contact regarding the next steps. Continued non-compliance will result in immediate lien filing." No documents, no proof, just more threats wrapped in vague language. I forwarded the email to Jake with a single line. "She's not backing down." His response came 2 minutes later. "Good. Let her file the lien. The moment she does. We have her on forgery. Keep your phone on. Record any in-person contact." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the house settle, thinking about my grandfather sitting in this same spot 60 years ago, when it was nothing but open land and possibilities. He'd built a life here. I'd built a house. And some con artist thought she could take it with nothing but a fake business card and a borrowed sense of authority. I got up, walked to the kitchen, and poured a glass of water. Through the window, I could see the driveway illuminated by the new camera's infrared glow. Waiting felt like surrender. But Jake was right. Marissa would come back. She'd push harder. And when she did, I'd be ready. Not with anger, not with panic. With evidence. With the law. With everything she thought I didn't have. The envelope arrived 3 days later. Certified mail. I signed and opened it in the entryway. Inside was a document that looked more official than anything Marissa had sent before. Heavy paper, formatted like a legal filing, titled Notice of Property Lien, in bold letters. $15,000. Filed with Travis County Clerk. Effective immediately. My name, address, case number that looked real enough to pass a glance. At the bottom, a stamped signature from a notary public. I checked the county's lien database, entered my address, no results. Entered the case number, invalid. The lien didn't exist in any official system. It was fake, but it was escalation. Marissa had just committed forgery. I called Jake immediately. He answered with traffic noise in the background, horn honking somewhere distant. Talk to me. I told him about the lien notice, the fake case number, and the notary stamp that couldn't be verified. There was a pause. Then his voice came back sharper. She just graduated from extortion to felony forgery. Don't touch that document more than you have to. Put it in a plastic sleeve. Preserve it exactly as it came. Then call the detective I gave you. This is now a criminal matter. He gave me the number again, made me repeat it back. And Alden. Don't respond to Marissa. Don't call. Don't email. Let law enforcement handle contact from here. If she shows up in person, record everything, but don't engage. You're a witness now, not a participant. I called the detective. His name was Morris. His voice low and measured like someone who'd heard every con in the book and wasn't impressed by new variations. I explained the situation, offered to send the documents. He told me to come to his office that afternoon. Bring everything. And be ready to make a formal statement. I agreed and hung up. Feeling the shift. This was no longer me versus Marissa. This was the system recognizing a crime and moving to address it. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt exposed, like I'd opened a door I couldn't close. I spent the next hour organizing every piece of evidence, printing emails, labeling files, and building a timeline that would make sense to someone seeing it for the first time. That afternoon, I sat across from Detective Morris in a windowless room. He was mid-50s, graying at the temples, desk cluttered with case files. I walked him through everything. The initial confrontation, the fake violation notice, the threatening text, the forged lien. He took notes in a small leather notebook, handwriting precise. When I finished, he looked up. You did everything right. Most people pay and never report it. The ones who do usually wait until after they've lost money. You documented early. You didn't engage. You verified your property records. That makes my job easier. He flipped through the documents I'd brought. How many other people do you think she's done this to? I told him about the post I'd found online. The Cedar Hills Association. The homeowner in Pflugerville who'd gone silent after asking for help. Morris wrote down the username, the forum name, and the approximate date. I'll reach out, if we can find other victims. This becomes a pattern that moves it from isolated fraud to organized criminal activity. Bigger charges, longer sentences. He closed his notebook. In the meantime, I need you to stay low. If she contacts you again, don't respond. Call me immediately. If she shows up at your property, record, but don't confront. We're building a case, and the last thing I need is a physical altercation that muddies the water. I nodded. He stood, extended his hand. You'll hear from me within 48 hours. We're going to look into Ms. Crowe's background, See what else she's been involved in. I left the police station feeling like I'd handed over control, which was both a relief and a frustration. The sun was setting by the time I got home, the sky streaked with pink and orange, the kind of evening my grandfather used to call God showing off. I parked in the driveway and saw her, Marissa, standing on my porch. No SUV this time, no enforcers, just her in a different blazer, charcoal gray, arms crossed. My hand went to my phone instinctively, opening the voice recorder before I even got out of the car. I walked toward her slowly, keeping my face neutral. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Mr. Reyes, I'm disappointed we haven't been able to resolve this amicably. I'm waiting for the documentation I requested," I said, my voice steady despite my pulse hammering. She tilted her head. "The lien has been filed. You received notice. At this point, your options are limited. Pay the $15,000, or we move forward with foreclosure proceedings. I'd hate to see you lose this beautiful home over something so easily resolved." I didn't take the bait. I checked with the county. There's no lien on file. Her expression flickered, just for a second, something cold passing behind her eyes. "Clerical delays happen. The filing is in process. You'll see it reflected in the system within days." She stepped closer, lowering her voice like we were conspirators. "Between you and me, if you settle today, I can reduce it to $10,000. Cash. No more paperwork. No more hassle. You move on. We move on." There it was. The price drop. The push for cash. The offer to make it disappear. She wasn't trying to enforce anything. She was trying to close a sale before I dug too deep. I looked at her. Really looked. And saw desperation dressed up as authority. "I'll need to consult with my attorney," I said. She stiffened. "You involved a lawyer?" Her tone shifted, irritation cracking through the polish. "That's only going to make this more expensive for you." I didn't respond. After a moment, she turned and walked to a sedan parked down the street, got in, and drove off without looking back. I stood on my porch, phone still recording, and watched her taillights disappear. Then I called Detective Morris and told him what had just happened. His response was one word: "Perfect." The message came 2 days later from a username I didn't recognize. "You reached out about Cedar Hills Association. I'm the person who posted that thread. I paid $5,000 last year because I was terrified of losing my house. If you're serious about stopping this person, I'll help." I stared at the screen, reading the message 3 times, feeling the weight of those words. $5,000. Gone. Handed over to someone who had no right to it. No authority. No legal standing. I replied immediately, "I'm serious. Can we meet?" An hour later, I was sitting in a coffee shop in Pflugerville across from David Chen, a software engineer in his early 30s with tired eyes and the kind of quiet frustration that comes from knowing you've been cheated and not knowing how to fix it. David pulled out his phone and opened his email. She called herself Rebecca Torres back then. Same playbook. Showed up with 2 guys. Handed me a violation notice. Said my fence was 6 inches over the property line and violated Cedar Hills covenants. I checked my deed. No HOA. But she had paperwork that looked real. And she kept talking about liens and foreclosure. And I panicked. He scrolled through his saved emails. I paid her in cashier's checks. She gave me a receipt. Said the violation was resolved. And I never heard from her again. It wasn't until I saw your message that I realized she's still doing this. I asked if he'd kept any of the documents. He nodded and forwarded them to my email right there. Fake violation notice, fake covenant excerpts, fake receipt. All were using a different HOA name but identical formatting to what Marissa had given me. "Why didn't you report it?" I asked. David looked down at his coffee. I felt stupid, like I should have known better. And honestly, 5,000 hurt, but not enough to fight. I just wanted it over. He met my eyes. But if she's doing this to other people, if she's still out there taking money, then I want to help stop it. Whatever you need. I told him about Detective Morris, about the investigation, about the forged lien. David's expression hardened. "She filed a fake lien on you, that's insane." I explained that it never made it into the official system, that it was just another layer of intimidation. David shook his head. I'll talk to your detective. I'll give him everything I have, and if this goes to court, I'll testify. We exchanged numbers, and I left the coffee shop feeling like the case had just doubled in weight. 1 victim was a mistake. 2 was a pattern. I called Detective Morris from the parking lot and told him about David, and forwarded the documents David had sent. Morris listened, asked a few clarifying questions, then said, "This changes things. With multiple victims using different aliases, we're looking at organized fraud. I'm going to reach out to Mr. Chen and get his statement. In the meantime, keep doing what you're doing. If anyone else contacts you, send them my way." I agreed and hung up. But I wasn't done. I went back to the neighborhood forum and posted publicly this time, carefully worded. If anyone in the Austin area has been contacted by someone claiming to represent an HOA you've never heard of, demanding fees for violations, please message me. There's an active investigation and your information could help. Within 6 hours, I had 2 more responses. A woman in Buda who'd paid $3,000 to someone calling themselves Sandra Miller and representing Oakwood Homeowners Alliance. A retired couple in Kyle who'd been threatened with a lien by a woman named Patricia Vance from Sunset Ridge Association. Same tactics, same fake paperwork, same demand for cash to make it go away. I connected all of them with Detective Morris, watched as the case grew from my isolated complaint into something much larger. Morris called me that evening, his tone different now, sharper with focus. "You just handed me a multi-county fraud case. 4 confirmed victims. Probably more. We haven't found yet. Marissa Crowe, or whatever her real name is, has been running this con for at least 2 years. We're escalating this to the DA's Financial Crimes Unit. They'll want to talk to you, probably within the week." I asked what happened next. Morris explained that with multiple victims and documented evidence of forgery and fraud, the DA would likely pursue felony charges. "This isn't a slap on the wrist situation. We're talking real prison time if she's convicted. Theft, forgery, impersonation, and organized fraud. It stacks up fast." He paused. "But here's the thing. She doesn't know we're building this yet. As far as she's concerned, you're just a stubborn homeowner who won't pay. That's good for us. The longer she thinks she's in control, the more likely she is to make another mistake. So if she contacts you again, stay calm, stay recorded, and call me immediately." I promised I would, and ended the call, feeling the shift from defense to offense. Marissa had spent weeks trying to intimidate me into submission. Now I had 4 other people willing to stand up and say she'd done the same to them. The case wasn't just mine anymore. It belonged to everyone she'd targeted. That night, I created a group chat with David and the other victims, shared our stories, and compared notes. The retired couple in Kyle said Marissa had threatened to put a lien on their house if they didn't pay within 48 hours, then called back an hour later offering to settle for half if they paid in cash. The woman in Buda said Marissa had shown up with a fake court order, printed on official-looking paper with a seal that didn't match any real court in Texas. Every story added another piece to the picture. Marissa wasn't just a con artist. She was systematic, calculated, and she'd been getting away with it because her victims were too scared or too embarrassed to fight back. But that was changing. We were building something she couldn't talk her way out of. Evidence. Witnesses, a timeline that stretched back years, and when Detective Morris and the DA were done building their case, Marissa Crowe was going to face exactly what she'd been threatening everyone else with. Legal consequences, real ones. The email came on a Thursday morning, subject line in all caps, "Final notice before legal action." I opened it standing in my kitchen, coffee still hot in my hand. Marissa had attached what looked like a court order, complete with a case number, a judge's signature, and an official-looking seal from the District Court of Travis County. It demanded I appear for a hearing in 5 days to show cause why my property shouldn't be subject to foreclosure for unpaid HOA fines. The formatting was perfect, the language precise. The kind of document that would panic anyone who didn't know what a real court order looked like. I downloaded it, examined the metadata, created 2 days ago using a standard word processor. The seal was an image file pulled from somewhere online. The judge's name didn't exist in Travis County's roster. I forwarded it to Detective Morris with a single line. She just forged a court document. His response came within minutes. Do not respond. Do not delete. We're moving on this today. An hour later, my phone rang. It was Jake. Morris just called me. They're planning to bring Marissa in for questioning. But before they do, he wants to try something. He wants you to reach out. Tell her you're ready to settle. And arrange a meeting. Somewhere public. County courthouse, if possible. They'll have plainclothes officers nearby. And the goal is to get her on record, making the extortion explicit. I felt my stomach tighten. You want me to bait her into incriminating herself? Jake's voice was calm. You'd be helping close the case. With witnesses, with officers present, with her own words sealing it. But it's your call. If you're not comfortable, they'll move forward without it. I thought about David, about the couple in Kyle, about everyone else she'd done this to. I thought about my grandfather's land, about the house I'd built, about the weeks of threats and intimidation. I'll do it. I drafted the email carefully, and Jake read over my shoulder via video call. Ms. Crowe, I've consulted with my family and I'm prepared to settle this matter to avoid further legal complications. Can we meet at the Travis County Courthouse to finalize payment and paperwork? I want everything documented properly this time. I sent it. Her reply came in less than 10 minutes. Excellent decision. Mr. Reyes, Monday at 10 a.m., County Clerk's office, 2nd floor. Bring a cashier's check for $10,000, and we'll close this out. Jake smiled through the screen. She just walked into it. Monday morning, I arrived at the courthouse 30 minutes early. Detective Morris was already there, dressed in plain clothes, leaning against a wall near the elevator like he was waiting for someone. He gave me a slight nod. Nothing more. Jake arrived 5 minutes later, carrying a briefcase, playing his role. We went up to the 2nd floor and found a small conference room that the county clerk had agreed to let us use. The clerk herself, a woman named Patricia, with silver hair and sharp eyes, knew what was happening. Morris had briefed her. She'd agreed to sit in as a neutral witness, to verify anything Marissa claimed about filings or records. At 9:55, Marissa stepped off the elevator. She was alone this time, no enforcers, just her in a black suit with a leather folio tucked under her arm. She saw me, saw Jake, and her smile tightened slightly. Mr. Reyes, I'm glad you came to your senses. We sat down at the table. Marissa opened her folio and pulled out a document titled Settlement Agreement and Release of Lien. She slid it across to me. Sign here. Provide the check. And this all goes away. No more violations. No more liens. No more complications. I picked up the document, pretended to read it. Jake leaned over, pointing at a clause. That this references a lien filed on October 15th. Can you provide proof that the lien was recorded with the county? Marissa's expression didn't change. It's in the system. Sometimes there are delays in the online database updating. Patricia, the county clerk, spoke for the first time. I can check that right now, if you'd like. Marissa stiffened. That won't be necessary. The filing is legitimate. Patricia was already typing on her laptop. 10 seconds later, she looked up. There's no lien recorded for this property on October 15th or any date in the past 6 months. The room went silent. Marissa's jaw tightened. There must be a clerical error. I have the paperwork. Jake opened his briefcase and pulled out the forged lien notice, the fake court order, and the original violation letter. He laid them out one by one. Ms. Crowe, none of these documents exist in any official system. The notary seal on this lien is fake. The court order references a judge who doesn't exist. The HOA you claim to represent isn't registered with the Secretary of State. Marissa stood up. I don't have to sit here and be accused. If you're not going to settle, then we'll see you in court. Detective Morris stepped into the doorway, blocking her exit. He held up his badge. Ms. Crowe, I'm Detective Morris with Travis County. I need you to sit back down. Her face went pale. Morris pulled out a folder. We've been investigating you for 2 weeks. We have 4 other victims willing to testify that you used the same tactics on them. Fake HOA names, forged documents, extortion demands. You're looking at multiple counts of fraud, forgery, and theft by deception. Marissa sat slowly, her hands shaking now. I want a lawyer. Morris nodded. That's your right. But before we go downtown, I want you to know that everything you said in this room was recorded with Mr. Reyes's consent. Texas is a one-party consent state. Your offer to settle a fraudulent debt in exchange for cash is on tape. He looked at me, then back at Marissa. You can leave now, but you'll be formally charged within 48 hours. I suggest you get that lawyer ready. The call came from Detective Morris 6 days later. She's been arrested. Travis County DA filed formal charges this morning. 4 counts of fraud, 3 counts of forgery, 2 counts of theft by deception, and 1 count of impersonating a legal entity. She's being held without bail, pending arraignment. I sat down at my kitchen table, the phone pressed to my ear, feeling the weight of those words settle. Arrested. Charged. Real consequences for real crimes. Morris continued. The DA wants statements from all the victims. You, David Chen, the couple in Kyle, the woman in Buda. They're building the case for trial. But honestly, with the evidence we have, her lawyer's probably going to push for a plea deal. I asked what that meant. Morris explained that. Facing 20 years if convicted on all counts. Most defendants take a deal that reduces prison time in exchange for a guilty plea. She'll do time either way. The question is, how much? 2 weeks late, I sat in a conference room at the DA's office with the other victims. David was there, quiet and focused. The couple from Kyle, Robert and Linda Martinez, both in their 70s, are holding hands across the table. The woman from Buda, Jennifer Walters, was a single mother who'd scraped together $3,000 she couldn't afford to lose. We each gave our statements to an assistant district attorney named Sarah Holloway, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She recorded everything, asked clarifying questions, and built a timeline that showed Marissa had been running this con for at least 3 years. You're not the first victims, Holloway said. We found 2 more people who filed complaints but never followed through. One in Round Rock, one in San Marcos. Same tactics, different HOA names, always cash demands, always threats of liens and foreclosure. Linda Martinez spoke up, her voice trembling. Why did it take so long for someone to stop her? Holloway's expression softened. Because most people pay and never report it. Or they report it and the case doesn't have enough evidence to prosecute. Mr. Reyes documented everything from day one, refused to engage, and connected the dots between victims. That's what made this case strong enough to bring charges. She looked at me. You did what most people don't have the resources or knowledge to do. You fought back the right way. I didn't feel like a hero. I felt angry that it took this long, that Marissa had gotten away with it for years, that people like the Martinez family had lost money they'd never get back. Holloway must have seen it on my face. We're pursuing restitution as part of the sentencing. If she has assets, you'll get your money back. If not, the court can garnish wages or set up payment plans. The preliminary hearing happened 3 weeks later. I sat in the gallery with Jake beside me, watching as Marissa was brought in wearing an orange jumpsuit, her hands cuffed in front of her. She looked smaller somehow, diminished without the blazer and the rehearsed authority. Her lawyer, a public defender who looked barely 30, argued for bail reduction, claiming Marissa wasn't a flight risk, had no prior convictions, and deserved the presumption of innocence. The prosecutor, Sarah Holloway, stood and methodically dismantled that argument. Your Honor, the defendant operated under at least 5 different aliases over 3 years. She targeted elderly homeowners, single parents, and individuals with limited legal resources. She forged court documents, notary seals, and HOA filings. The evidence includes recorded conversations, forged documents, and testimony from 6 victims across 4 counties. She is a demonstrated threat to the community and has shown a pattern of deception that suggests significant flight risk. The judge, an older man with wire-rimmed glasses, reviewed the case file in silence. Then he looked up. "Bail is denied. The defendant will remain in custody pending trial." Marissa's face crumpled. Her lawyer started to object, but the judge cut him off. "Counselor, your client is facing multiple felonies with overwhelming evidence. I'm not releasing her to potentially victimize others while awaiting trial. Next court date is set for 60 days from today." The gavel came down. Marissa was let out, and I watched her go, feeling nothing but cold satisfaction. This was what accountability looked like. Not anger, not revenge. The system is finally working the way it was supposed to. Outside the courthouse, David and the others were waiting. We stood in a loose circle, the January sun pale and distant. Jennifer Walters spoke first. "I didn't think this would actually happen. I thought she'd get away with it like they always do." Robert Martinez shook my hand, his grip firm despite his age. "You gave us something back. Not the money, not yet, but our dignity, the feeling that someone was listening." I didn't know what to say to that. Jake put a hand on my shoulder. "The plea hearing is in 2 weeks. Holloway thinks Marissa's lawyer is going to take a deal. Probably 5 to 7 years. Full restitution. Permanent ban from real estate activities." I nodded, watching the others disperse, each carrying their own piece of this story. It wasn't over yet, but standing there in front of the courthouse, I felt something shift. The weight I'd been carrying since that first morning on my porch, the weight of threats and uncertainty and violation, started to lift. Marissa Crowe had come to my land thinking she could take what wasn't hers. Instead, she'd walked into a system that, when pushed hard enough, still knew how to push back. The plea deal came through exactly 2 weeks later. Marissa Crowe pled guilty to all charges in exchange for a reduced sentence. 7 years in state prison. No possibility of parole for the first 3. Full restitution to all 6 identified victims, totaling $32,000, to be paid from the sale of her remaining assets and through wage garnishment after release. Permanent prohibition from engaging in any real estate-related business or serving in any HOA capacity. The judge accepted the plea and added one more condition: a public statement from Marissa acknowledging her crimes and apologizing to her victims. I sat in the courtroom and watched her read it, her voice flat and mechanical, every word forced. When it was over, she was led away, and I walked out into February sunshine feeling like I could finally breathe. The restitution check arrived 6 weeks later, $12,000, the exact amount I'd spent on legal fees, documentation, and lost time. I deposited it and immediately wrote a check for the full amount to Texas Rio Grande Legal Aid, a nonprofit that helps low-income families fight housing fraud. David Chen did something similar with his restitution, funding a community education program about property rights. The Martinez family used theirs to pay off medical bills they'd been carrying. Jennifer Walters put hers toward her daughter's college fund. We'd all lost something to Marissa's con. Now we were putting that money toward making sure it didn't happen to others. The local news picked up the story. Austin woman sentenced for multi-year HOA fraud scheme. The article detailed Marissa's tactics, listed the victims, and included a quote from Detective Morris warning homeowners to verify any HOA claims through official county records before paying. Within days, I started getting messages from people across Texas saying they'd encountered similar scams, that seeing Marissa prosecuted gave them the courage to report. Morris told me the DA's office had opened 3 new investigations based on tips that came in after the story ran. Marissa's arrest had created a ripple effect, exposing a problem that had been hiding in plain sight for years. I stood on my porch one evening in early March, watching the sunset paint the hill country in shades of gold and amber. The house behind me was finished now, permitted, inspected, and legally mine in every way that mattered. I'd installed a small plaque next to the front door. Know your rights. Verify all claims. Stand your ground. Simple words, but they meant something. My grandfather had taught me that land was more than dirt and boundaries. It was security, legacy, the foundation you built everything else on. Marissa had tried to take that using nothing but fear and fake paperwork. She'd failed because I'd refused to be intimidated. I'd documented everything because I'd found others willing to stand up and say enough. The story didn't end with her sentencing. It ended here, with me standing on land that had been in my family for 38 years, in a house I'd designed and built with my own vision, finally able to call it home without looking over my shoulder. Marissa Crowe had wanted $15,000. Instead, she got 7 years and a criminal record that would follow her forever. Justice wasn't always fast, but when it came with weight, and that was enough. If this story reminded you that standing up for what's yours is always worth it, hit that subscribe button for Gated Drama. We bring you real stories of people who refused to back down when someone tried to take what they built. Drop a comment about a time you had to fight for your rights. Your story might be next. Don't let fear win.